Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And in update 920, as you probably know, the AMX 50 Foch 155 is going to be replaced by the AMX 50 Foch B. This video is going to let you know everything you need to know about the brand new Tier 10 French auto-loading tank destroyer and why it might once again be one of, if not the most dangerous tanks in the game. Firstly, I'm going to run down the full statistics of this vehicle and show you how it stacks up compared to the AMX 50 Foch 155. Then I'm going to follow it up with some pretty damn killer gameplay that should really show you all that you need to know about this tank. And if you have no interest in picking up the brand new Tier 10 French tank destroyer, then I'll give you some tips and tricks as to how to handle them effectively when they arrive on the battlefield very soon. So firstly, let's talk about the buffs to the AMX 50 Foch 155, which are also affecting the AMX 50B in update 920. The vehicle is having increased gun traverse limits to 10 degrees on either side, as well as the elevation increasing from 12 degrees up to 18 degrees, and the depression is improving from 5 degrees to 6 degrees. Wargaming have also stated that the vehicle has improved hull armor, and upon investigation, what a buff to the side armor of this tank. 40mm is what the AMX 50 Foch 155 previously had. Now it is going to have 80mm of side armor, and that's an absolute gigantic change. Due to the overmatch rules in World of Tanks, 40mm of side armor would have been overmatched by all 121mm caliber guns and larger. Now nothing is going to be able to overmatch the side of your armor, so you're pretty much going to be able to angle it like this, go backwards and forwards, and not have to worry about your opponents penetrating you. And that means it should be a lot easier for you to be able to avoid getting shot in the cupolas. This is a really big buff to the Foch B. Apart from that, the other key difference between these tanks is in the name. The Foch 155 has 155mm main armament, whereas the Foch B now has 120mm main armament that fires 6 rounds in each magazine. So let's compare the statistics of these two vehicles to see if the new Tier 10 French tank destroyer is going to be the better one. So alpha damage, as expected, the 120mm has 400, while the 155 retains its 750. Now one thing that is slightly disappointing about the Foch B is that its standard penetration is rather poor at 257mm. In fact, that means that this has the lowest penetration of any Tier 10 tank destroyer. And if you want full-blooded 293mm of penetration, well, you're going to have to stick with the Foch 155. As the Foch B has a 6-round 120mm autoloader, that means that the vehicle is capable of doing 2,400 damage per magazine, whereas the Foch 155 is 150 lower at 2,250. But this difference is amplified when we look at how long it takes to reload each of these two vehicles' magazine. The Foch B reloads in 36.43 seconds, whereas the Foch 155 is going to take nearly 48 seconds to reload. So that means that even though the Foch B has the larger potential damage in each magazine, it also reloads faster than the Foch 155, giving it a massive DPM advantage. And this is further amplified in the speed at which these vehicles unload their magazine, i.e. their intra-clip reload. The Foch B has 2 seconds delay between each one of its shells, a lot like a T-57 Heavy, for example, while the Foch 155 takes a whopping 5 seconds between each of its 355mm shells. So what this means is that both of these tanks actually take the same amount of time to fully unload a magazine, 10 seconds from the first shot. But of course, the Foch B doing 2,400 within 10 seconds, while the Foch 155 doing 2,250 within 10 seconds of the first shot. As you would expect with a lower caliber gun, the Foch B also has better aim time. In this example, it's 2.21 seconds compared to 2.88 seconds. And furthermore, the accuracy on the Foch B is better, 0.33 compared to 0.35, meaning that without a shadow of a doubt, the Foch B has the better combat potential, the firepower over the old Foch 155, with regards to everything apart from pure penetration. And that's really it as far as differences between these two top-tier French autoloading tank destroyers goes. Everything else is identical. So let's take a look at the Foch B's armor to show what this vehicle is now going to be capable of, considering that the side of the tank has been doubled in thickness. Well, if you're flat onto your opponents and you're not angling your armor at all, the whole of this part is about 240 at its worst, ranging up to about 280 towards the upper part of the tank. And the vehicle does have, of course, 2 rather weak points. The left here, about 200mm of effective armor, and this kind of periscope looking thing on top of the tank, well, it's a disappointing 150. One thing that a lot of people do wrong is they aim down at this rather well-angled lower plate on the Foch, and because they do that, they ricochet off. Only shoot this lower plate if for some reason you're below the tank and shooting up into it. But let's take a look how much we can put this new 80mm of side armor to use. We can still angle it all the way like this. And so what that means now is that the whole of the front of the tank is pretty much 280 to 300mm of effective armor, and you're only giving up this part as a weak point. So if you do have a Foch do this to you, try and take advantage of it here. If of course you find that he's moving that horrible periscope type thing on top of the tank a little bit too much for your liking. But you know what, I think that's quite enough theory crafting. Let's see how the brand new Foch B performs on the battlefield. So here we go, we're rolling out on Nibelberg on the brand new 30 versus 30 game mode that'll be coming in patch 920. But you'll know that already because hopefully you've watched my 920 update overview video. So get an idea of the Foch B's mobility here. If you've played the Foch 155, then I'm pretty sure it's going to be identical, right? This is not a slow tank destroyer. It goes at 50 kilometers an hour, top speed limit. It's got a decent power to weight ratio. We're keeping up with the 268 and we're keeping up with that 50B that's in front of us. Now Nibelberg, we're going to be working our way towards the town. I feel like this tank is focused for a frontal engagement. The last thing that you want is to have people shooting you in the side, above you, shooting you in the rear. You want to just keep the enemies right in front of you, where you probably have, I'd say, the most dangerous gun on any tier 10 tank again. I guess probably the FV215B183 might have something to say about that if it is indeed firing Hesh rounds and you don't have all that much armor. But the fact that this vehicle once again has 2,400 potential damage is kind of pushing the tank towards what it used to be like. This vehicle, when it was the Foch 155, used to have 850 alpha damage for its 3 shells. That was truly monstrous. Now here we go, look! Foch B versus an AMX 50B. How's it going to work out? The enemy Foch B has put 3-4 rounds in now. There's his 5th. Is he going to finish him off? There you go. He's dry now. He's fired all of his 6 rounds of ammunition. But he managed to kill the entirety of that tier 10 French auto-loading heavy tank. And just look at this. This is crazy. It's like a T57 heavy, but just having an extra 2 shells, having better gun handling, having better accuracy, and I guess having just a little bit more penetration as well, although not massively more penetration. And that's how easy it is to pick up a couple of kills at the start of the game in a single magazine. And this will be music to the ears of all of those of you who a long time ago were playing the Foch 155 when it was truly a monster. But the thing that makes the Foch B just so deadly is look at the reload. We're already halfway to getting in another magazine. We've pretty much taken out the entirety of a single hit points worth, well, a tier 10 hit points worth, and now we're almost ready to go again. Now this IS-7, as you can see, it now has 2,400 hit points with a slight buff that tank has received. Let's see how quickly we can take it away. Okay, depress the gun, 1 into the lower plate, 2 into the tracks, he repairs and we retrack. Oh, this is, oh. You're starting to see what I'm talking about, with this probably returning to being one of, if not the most dangerous tanks for a one-on-one engagement. This thing is going to be absolutely filthy. It is going to be, once again, probably the last thing that you want to have sitting right in front of you. The key difference is that its DPM has just increased dramatically, pretty much by about 1/3, I'd say. And that's the difference between going from where you just have to spend forever reloading and then you miss and then you don't hit the target and then you waste one of your shells in the Foch 155. But in this tank, you just seem to be able to reload to go quickly again. Although, take a look at the limitations that this tank has with the penetration. Did you see that as soon as that Type 5 Heavy angled his armor towards us, we really weren't able to engage him effectively? But wow, in the first 3 minutes of this game, we're pretty much up to 5,000 damage. But unfortunately, our team is not doing too well. Do you see this health bar at the top of your screen? That's an indication of the overall hit points that are remaining on your team. And it just so happens that every single game that I played in this 30 versus 30 game mode just seemed to be an absolute whitewash. Even though I felt that I was carrying my weight, I was doing lots of damage, picking up a load of kills, I just couldn't seem to win any of them. And I guess if you increase the amount of tanks that are on the battlefield, then that also increases the chance of one team gaining an overall advantage and just smashing through the enemy team with a superior number of forces, right? Unfortunately, at the end of this game, the 113G manages to put one round into us, and I get finished off by the artillery. Nevertheless, I feel that this game really sums up the new combat capacity of the Foch B. You only really need to connect one magazine to be having a decent game. If you connect two magazines, well, you're having kind of a game-winning impact against your opponents. This thing truly will be a monster in the 920 update, and there's going to be more reason than ever to try and get your way through the French tank destroyer line. And while we weren't a hero in this battle, that is for sure, we were still able to do that 5,000 damage in very quick time. Double what anyone else on our team was able to achieve, and we make a profit because we didn't fire any premium rounds. But that's one thing that I probably should stress in this tank, is that if you want to play it seriously, then the APCR rounds on it will be able to compensate for probably the tank's key weakness, and that is penetration. Now, while the Foch B might be all fun and exciting, it does bring back memories of a certain turreted tier 10 auto-loading tank destroyer that was removed from the game. But I presume that the key differences between the vehicles is that even the nerfed version of the WT Alpha 100 had 2,800 potential damage in each one of its magazines, i.e. 5 times 560. And the fact that that vehicle had a fully traversable turret and pretty troll-like upper hull armor still did make it one of the most brutal and overpowered vehicles. And I just wonder if people are going to start thinking about the Foch B in the same way after they get clipped, just like I did to that IS-7 multiple times. And I'd be interested to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments if you think that Wargaming might have buffed the Foch B just a little bit too much, or if you think it's about time that the vehicle received some love and was relevant again. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe it was just useful to you. If it was, please consider giving it a like. I'd really appreciate it. And remember that I've got lots of videos coming out on the 920 update, so stay tuned to the channel. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week I'm going to be reviewing the Swedish tank destroyer tech tree, as it is now top of the tree on the European server. And if you've never been to one of my tech tree showcases before, it's basically like a miniature tank review starting from tier 1 and ending up at tier 10. So you can see if it's a line that's worth grinding, or alternatively, if you've already got the vehicles, maybe pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. So really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.